academia and you're on a college campus. And so how's that going?
Well, I think if you told me back in the 1980s when I was an undergraduate at Oxford that by the 2020s there would be less free speech in American universities than in American saloon bars, I would have been pretty incredulous. Because in the early 80s, when I was at Oxford, there was almost no restriction on what we could say. And there was incredible intellectual diversity in the university. You could go from talking to a Marxist professor in the morning to listening to an ultra-conservative in the afternoon. Andrew Sullivan and I were undergraduates together. We were quite outrageous and highly offensive and said a whole range of things that would get you cancelled today in a heartbeat. I never foresaw that there would be an atmosphere in universities where students would denounce one another or denounce their professors for something that was said in class. I never imagined a university world in which associate deans for diversity, equity, and inclusion would decide what could be said on university premises. I find all this completely surreal. In fact, I think it's probably the biggest surprise of my life, because back in the 80s, I guess working with historians like the late, great Norman Stone, I learned that denouncing, informing, cancellation, all that kind of stuff went on in totalitarian regimes like Stalin's Soviet Union or Mao's China. And that kind of behavior happened because there was a dictator in charge. And that's how people tend to behave in such a regime. The thing that's amazing is to see people behaving that way with no dictator in sight. In fact, they're behaving that way in a completely free society. And that's shocking to me, because I can't imagine anything, frankly, more contemptible than writing a letter denouncing somebody and sending it to a higher authority, asking for them to be disciplined. But that stuff goes on all the time in American universities. Stanford is not by any means unusual. The same kind of things are going on at all the major universities and the minor ones too. So this is a big surprise to me. I think it's pretty appalling. In fact, I think it's highly dangerous that there is this assault on academic freedom and on free speech, because our universities, like it or not, produce the not only the elites, but a really large proportion of the people who run America. And if they leave after 4 years at college with at least a habit of self-censorship, and at worst a kind of indoctrination in what we call woke ideology, that's terrible for America and terrible for the world. So the situation is very bad. I think there are things we are doing that are gradually improving it, creating new institutions, like the University of Austin, making sure that the few existing institutions that are healthy, like the Hoover Institution, stay healthy, making sure that we organize so that cancel cultures sort of doesn't succeed. I was involved in creating the Academic Freedom Alliance to fight back when individuals are targeted. There's a lot we're doing. And so in this part of my life, as in other parts, I'm trying to fight the good fight, because I think it's hugely important.
I think is it Harvard that just came out with a new group saying that they're going to fight for academic freedom, including, professors' ability to say what is factual and not get piled on or canceled because of it. We'll see whether that's a real commitment or not. It used to be that Princeton was the place you'd go if you really wanted that, but they've surrendered to the woke. University of Chicago was another place. They've surrendered to the woke. One by one, they drop like dominoes.
I was very glad to see that my old friends, Steve Pinker and Larry Summers and others, were creating that new organization at Harvard. It's long overdue, because actually Harvard's track record on disciplining faculty and other university members for speech, quote unquote, offenses is pretty bad. So this is good. I mean, these are good signs, Megyn, that we're getting organized and we're trying to contest and fight back against these really deplorable trends. But I really want to stress there's a long way to go. And the kind of events that you're covering and others are covering, and organizations like FIRE are monitoring, these events are happening a lot. I sometimes am told, there's a pendulum that will swing back to the center. And I don't see that pendulum. I actually think that the pendulum, if there is one, has been swinging to the left with every decade since I was an undergraduate, and there's no sign of it moving the other direction. Quite the opposite. The tendency is for people to hire ever more ideologically, to discriminate ever more explicitly on political grounds. So we've a lot of work to do to create the kind of university that I would want our young sons to go to. Thomas is 11, Campbell is 5, and we've got just about time to make sure that there's a higher education worth their doing by the time they get to be 18.
So explain University of Austin to me. I'm confused by it. I love everybody associated with it, but I don't understand what it is or how it works. It's not an online university. So what is it?
Well, we are building a university that will be located in Austin, Texas, that will be founded on the principles of academic freedom, intellectual freedom, as well as meritocracy. And we will institutionalize those principles so that they are constitutionally guaranteed by a university constitution. Creating a university is not easy. It's not like doing an AI startup, which seems to take about 3 weeks these days. You have to go through an accreditation process, which is quite laborious and time-consuming. But we will admit our first class, all going well, in the fall of 2024. That's next year. We've moved it by academic standards at lightning speed. We've raised $150 million, which is chump change by Harvard standards, but we're a startup. We don't need to have Harvard's budget. We just need to build and then scale this institution. And it's extremely exciting, and I think very American, to be creating a new institution. Once upon a time, the University of Chicago was us. Once upon a time, Stanford was us. You know, you have to remember that by Oxford standards, both Chicago and Stanford are quite young institutions, not even close to 200 years old. And so we believe that America needs a new university, and it's ultimately going to be good for the existing universities if there's one that really models academic freedom and really models a truly meritocratic culture in which we only discriminate in favor of talent. That's what we're going to do, and I think if we get it right, we're going to attract the most exciting students in the country, because I can assure you, students at the established universities are frustrated, downright depressed in many cases, because academic life, student life, is just no fun. It's no fun when the woke police are poised to jump on you if you use the wrong word in the wrong context. Building a university which will be truly intellectually free will be fun, and I think we will very quickly be a magnet for talent. And the minute we do that, the other universities are going to realize we have to address our own illiberal, no fun culture. And ultimately, I hope 20 years from now, I probably only have 20 years left, judging by typical life expectancy for Scotsmen. I hope 20 years from now, we've really made a difference, and I believe we will.
Well, the other thing is, I think there are a lot of employers who are thirsty for this kind of a product, to recruit graduates from a school like that who haven't been indoctrinated. Anyone who would choose the University of Austin will have a certain set of ideals and principles and ways of approaching thinking and problem solving that I, for one, as an employer, would find very attractive. And I know there are many just like me. So that's the other thing. Once people see that the graduates of this university get great jobs, you know, it may not be with Bud Light, but they get great jobs with great corporations that will employ and be loyal to them. That'll change, you know, the equation there too.
You are so right, Megyn, and we absolutely intend to make sure that the message gets out, and also that we make sure that as we devise our undergraduate and master's programs, we devise them so that our people will be like the Navy SEALs of the mind. And that's an image I really like. We see still elitism in our military. The desire to be the very, very best is something that motivates the SEALs and the other special forces folks. But where is that in academia? Well, we want to build it. And if you can produce the Navy SEALs or the Green Berets of the brain, then you bet the top employers are going to want to hire our people. And this is something that our wonderful president, Pano Kanelos, keeps emphasizing. We've got to make sure that we are designing programs that are fundamentally different in their aspiration. We want to produce leaders. We want to to produce people who dare to think and learn to lead. That's my kind of preferred motto for the University of Austin. And so it's actually very invigorating to be involved in doing this, because we can learn from history. We can learn from what's gone wrong at the established universities and try and come up with something that's fundamentally different. There won't be departments. There won't be a system of tenured faculty who become dominant. There won't be an enormous bureaucracy of officers policing what gets said and done. All of that will be got rid of. It won't exist in those forms at the University of Austin.
Experts say that China is hoarding a massive amount of food. They will soon have over 2/3 of the globe's corn reserves, over half of its rice, and over half of its wheat. But when asked about it, China misleads. One China expert says they, of course, would never admit to something like that. Well, what does China know that we do not? When it comes to global food shortages, China may be the canary in the coal mine. You see, China's the world's #1 food importer. They rely on the rest of the world to keep their people fed, so they cannot afford to mess it up, or there could be civil unrest, or worse. That's why it's a smart idea to stock up on a kit of the best-selling 4 Patriots survival food. Create your own stockpile of the best-selling 4 Patriots survival food kits. Hand-packed in the USA, the kits are compact and stack easily. They have different delicious breakfasts, lunches, and dinners. And their 5-star reviews on the website rave about the flavor and the taste. Right now, you can get 10% off your first purchase of 4 Patriots survival food by typing in the code MK at checkout. Just go to 4patriots.com. Use that code MK to get 10% off your first purchase of 4 Patriots survival food. 4patriots.com. Use code MK. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.